promised it was not going to be too long, didn't I? So welcome back. We're now at part 2 of why lack of diversity in Classic Who did not offend me. So going right into what we were talking about before, and that's the idea of what the Doctor Who was going on with the world around it. Because we stopped at Toberman with Tomb of the Cybermen. Now we're going to slim down some more. And mind you, I might be forgetting of more ethnic actors in the Second Doctor's era because some of the episodes are missing, so there could have been a person who was of color in one episode, and I completely didn't know about it because of the missing episodes where all I could watch were clips and bad animation. I mean, bad reanimation. Like, it was computerized animation that some fan did, which I'm happy they did, but it didn't always make it clear what was happening and who looked like what. Now that's clear. But I thank you, person who did that computerized animation on your computer. I thank you. But again, it's not always clear with what's happening in those stories. Okay, so back to the point. So we stopped off at Toberman from Tomb of the Cybermen and Toberman's role in how it was gradually trying to improve black people's, spotlight in Doctor Who. But then we scroll down and we have got Enemy of the World with the food taster, Fry. And she was a great actress, very well cast, very beautiful, had a legitimate part, and did a damn good job in that legitimate part. See the gradual shift, the gradualness of it all. Gradualness. And then, again, of course, there could be more people of color in the Second Doctor era. Sorry, my cell phone's going off, and I totally forgot to turn it off. But just ignore it. Okay, so, there could be more, like I said before, but again, missing episodes, don't have enough to go off of. So let's go down to the third season of the Second Doctor, and this is when it gets dicey when it comes to politics. You know why? Because in 1968, right when the Second Doctor's second era was happening, we have the law of discrimination, where in Britain, any sort of discrimination was banned. There was a law about this. But there was someone, when it came to a politician, his name was Enoch Powell, and he delivered a speech about the dangers of allowing immigration to flourish this way, and about how this law of banning discrimination was a bad law, and about how he was safeguarding, or we should safeguard Britain against, this oncoming threat about all the violence, etc., and crime that could ensue from accepting all this diversity. And his speech, while it is infamous now, especially in Britain, that speech it's infamous now. Back then, that speech had a lot of popularity to it. People were really backing, and they were in Powell's corner. And as a politician, he did have some sway. And Doctor Who is in this environment. It's in this environment where here it was, trotting along, it was gradually, helping with cultural diversity in its run, and then boom, this happens. Now it's dangerous. Now it's scary for them. And then we've got the last season of the Second Doctor, and we have a black character at the end of the season, where there could be a black character beforehand, I forgot about, but the War Games. This character was a very good representation of a black, as an African-American soldier in the Civil War. But here's the thing, it's a little bit separated from Britain in the sense that this is taking place in the American Civil War. This is an African-American in a whole different country. So you could make it feel more removed from you all in that way. But Doctor Who now has the clampers possibly on it. Again, I was not there at the time. I was not even born yet. So this is all speculation. You can correct me in the comment section if I'm completely wrong. Don't worry, guys. I'm not one of those people who thinks because I'm a woman that automatically makes me right about everything. Just like, as a woman, that does not make me automatically wrong about everything. Right is right, wrong is wrong. So, moving on with that, you have this happening where the political climate around Doctor Who is dicey. Doctor Who is trying to survive, but dealing with the reality that Doctor Who is also losing fans, as it was naturally going to. It's in its 6th year, and Patrick Troughton, people kind of never forgave Patrick at the time for taking over for William Hartnell. They just couldn't not accept the change. Accepting change is not easy. It's hard, especially when you're the first Doctor to take over such an iconic Doctor as the first Doctor. It's like with the 11th Doctor went through when taking over for David Tennant. People are naturally not going to like you. There's nothing you can do about it. And Patrick Troughton even believed that when he took over for the role, it was not even going to last 6 weeks under him. That's how much he was not confident about people's love for him as the Doctor. So dealing with the reality that the audience is dwindling for Doctor Who to the point where when the War Games finally ended, there was even talk of Doctor Who being cancelled. But the writers at the time fought for Doctor Who, and to get it not cancelled, they said, let's have him stranded on Earth so the show is cheaper to do. And now we are in color. And we have a new Doctor, and this Doctor clearly is a Doctor that the audience can get behind, exactly what, a lot of people in Britain would probably idolize. Like, John Pertwee is a very good, something about him is just a guy you naturally would follow after, and you naturally would feel a kindred to, especially with the audience they were trying to get in there. But then deal with the reality that you are coming post Enoch Powell. You're still in a world where discrimination is vital to your society. It's acceptable, it's treasured, and that you've got this thing, all this attitudes coming around that's making the people of color in London and in Britain, and there was a lot of immigration from that time of people from the British colonies who were of color coming to London, and then there was question of, are they going to be accepted, or do they have the right to even be accepted, and then they're coming over saying, well, of course we should be accepted. We are British. We are your colonies. We are your people, technically. And people who are against immigration, but immigrants are like, why are you not accepting us? And other people are like, of course we should accept the immigrants. It was a confusing political time. And Doctor Who was right in the middle of it. Right in the middle. And it's a show that was losing its audience, possibly, by the end of the second Doctor era. How can they get the audience back? They need an audience to keep going. So when it comes to the lack of diversity, because we literally see by the end of the 1960s, then the golden era of black actors, not just in Doctor Who, but in the BBC, right by the end of the 60s began to drop off. And maybe it had to do with the fact that of the political climate. So black actors were not being given as much chances as they were anymore, and Doctor Who might have been included in that, because you don't want to risk losing the audience you still have, and you want to get more of an audience back to keep thriving. Survival of the fittest. It's all about just trying to survive. And Doctor Who was trying to survive. And it did. And there was a lot more lack of diversity in the third Doctor era, but third Doctor era. Sometimes when I say era, it sounds like error. I admit that. But it did return back to prominence all over again. And survival of Doctor Who is just as much vital to me in that time as just the cultural diffusion, because the Doctor Who show is a show I love. And I'm happy it survived. I am. Because it survived that time to become stronger, better, and more racially tolerant later. And I know you're thinking, well, you should have risked it more, but we say these things in retrospect, or we say them in hindsight. But at the time, when these people are going through all of this, and they're in that TV, studio, all this pressure is coming from them at all sides. It's not always very easy, is it? And for all we know, when the work began to dry up at TV for people of color, maybe the casting choices dried up as well. So we have a few choices when it comes to third Doctor era. We've got the Mind of Evil. We have that Asian actress who was phenomenal and so gorgeous. God, she was gorgeous. And then we also have in the episode The Mutants, which had Cotton, played by Rick James, who was just happy to get a part. And The Mutants is a story that is literally, it is like an analogy for what was going on in Britain completely at the time when it comes to segregation, racial discrimination, but it told it in a way that gave a nice broad appeal. And that's what I do respect about The Mutants. And Cotton, played by Rick James, well, of course, some people argue that he could have been miscast, but it was just good to see a black actor there. And I'm happy to have seen him there as well, and a part that they didn't have to feel like it especially was black. And there could be other people of color in the third Doctor era that I'm just forgetting about right now. And I admit that. Now we're going to move on to the fourth Doctor era, because now this is encompassing Doctor Who completely in the 70s, which was, overall, there was a lack of diversity in Doctor Who in the 70s. But again, we see a slight, over time, a desire for a gradual bringing back of black actors. It was very gradual, but it was still, I can't deny it was present. Because we have, once we get to Leela's time in his, we get the Robots of Death, where we have a black actress in a legitimately respectable part, where she was actually the elite. And there were people who were lower than her, and there were pretty much all the white people in the show. They were kind of technically lower than she was. Very, that was a very bold choice. I'm happy they made it. Also, you had before that, Planet of Evil. There was a black actor in that, but he was more of a, he was there a lot, but he didn't say much, but again, he was definitely present. Again, gradual, they're going for it. So they're testing the waters again, and they're still successful. They're still successful. And then you have Destiny of the Daleks, where you do have, again, very solid black actors in it. That was really nice to see. I'm probably forgetting more people of color. Oh, yeah, and then we got the Talons of Wing-Chiang, which caused a controversy. Of course, took place back in Leela's time. And when it comes to the Talons of Wing-Chiang, you do have a Caucasian actor who was, put on, prosthetics and makeup to look Asian. This is not the first time that, characters were blackened up for Doctor Who and for the BBC. Well, another thing that needs to be understood is back in the 60s, even though there was a rise of black actors and black performers, there still were the minstrel shows. The white people putting on blackface. And this ran for around 2 decades. So it was lasting for a long time. So while there was black performers on BBC, there was still the minstrel show going strong. So you have to remember what the 70s is coming off of. Enoch Powell and still the idea of the minstrel show. So now we're still going on with that. And with Talons of Wing-Chiang, there was one, when I was watching the Mutant special features, there was an Asian Doctor Who writer. He did some type of Doctor editorial stuff. I can't remember what he did, but he definitely did do something when it came to writing about Doctor Who. But also, his uncle was in Talons of Wing-Chiang. And yes, there was a Caucasian person playing an Asian character, but he said when it came to that controversy, it got banned in Canada. Canada said this is too offensive. It never aired in Canada. Yeah. Talons of Wing-Chiang never aired in Canada. And I liked that they got an Asian actor, an Asian, writer to talk about this, whose uncle was in the episode. He said it's a great pity because it's a damn good story. An Asian person was commenting on Talons of Wing-Chiang and was able to remove, he was, of course, understand why it would have been better for them, nice to have, an Asian actor play the lead character, but he did not let it deter him from still respecting and loving and admiring the story itself. And that is something I'm going to get to later about us as people of color when it comes to our tolerance or forgiveness of things like classic Doctor Who and its lack of diversity. And this concludes episode 2, or part 2, sorry, not episode 2, part 2 of this video series of ethnic diversity in Classic Who and why it did not offend me. I'll do part 3 very soon. Thank you guys. I'll see you again very soon. Peace out.